Okay, welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we got the 6.15 tier list. I wanted to do one for 6.11, but that patch was admitted by the devs that it was like a mistake, so we were just waiting until the next patch, but they didn't really change much. So anyway, today I got like the Avengers on deck. We got couple of people from the last video. We got the original Monk 2-hour cranker, twitch.tv/Narusawa, cat girl G poser extraordinaire. That's the first character we got on deck. Second character we got on deck. Remember him from the Monk video? It's the handsome devil.
Oh my god, dude.
J Vermilion, the one trick monk. Well, actually, he's playing like Gunbreaker now or something, aren't you?
No,
the
bro.
1v1 tournament master champion.
Okay.
we got actually two competitive players. So if you're keeping up with the tournament hosted by Plus on Twitch, that's twitch.tv/plus1 on Twitch. We got Sweet Dreams from Team Goodnight. And then, hey, thanks for coming on. Cracked Dancer player. If you remember in the last video, we didn't have anyone who knew anything about Dancer, so we put it in the wrong tier list pretty much because we were idiots. But now we have a Dancer main in the chat, so he's going to set us straight. After that, we also have the Aurelio Weaver, 10 bajillion year feaster, been playing since the game came out pretty much. Also plays in the competitive tournament for Team Sweet Dollar T. Is that correct?
Hell yeah, it is.
Alright, okay. Now, after that, I'm excited to bring to you guys the rank 2 Aether player, Rin Amai. Fucking came out of nowhere, took the leaderboard by storm. Super strong cranker. And last but not least, we got the original Black Mage player. So this is very interesting. Both of these players, Rin Amai and Nishi, are like very good at Black Mage, and they play it pretty much like they just skill diff every other Black Mage in the queue, XD. So I'm very glad to have you guys on. Also, I believe Nishi plays on Crystal as well. I think he's also like top 5. Yeah, there he is in Crystal. So we really got like a stacked video today. Can you say hi for everyone in the audience? Rin.
Hello.
And Nishi.
Yo, what up?
All right. So now that the introductions are over, you know, you already know. First things first.
Sounds alright.
Yeah, the S stands for super flare.
You guys want to tell me how easy it was to slam everyone on Black Mage? Who wants to go first between our resident Black Mage experts?
Yeah, I mean, that Black Mage is just free credits right now. Like,
Is there
it's just a skill diff every game. You know, who has the better Black Mage wins. That's pretty much how it is right now. Unless there's a good monk on enemy team, like you can just if they let you play the game for free, then it's pretty much you know, guaranteed win. Unless you have like complete monkeys on your team.
You're gonna say something, Ren?
I was gonna say that on top of being really strong as a job itself, there's a big difference between Black Mages that are more experienced with their playstyle and gameplay compared to people who just pick it up as meta slaves.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to Black Mage difference someone who doesn't really know a job or doesn't really know the game sense for the caster kind of gameplay that well.
Could you tell me what are the weaknesses that you eyed, like when you see on the enemy team, you see, oh, he's doing this, psh, that's free money. You know, like I know that when I see a ninja on the enemy team and I see certain things, I feel like it's free elo. You know what I'm saying? So what are some things that like when you see it happen, it gives you the clue in that that guy is he's free credit pretty much.
Or we're talking about black mages?
Yeah.
Yo,
So like
Yeah, you have to pay attention to like purifies, guards. Like if someone uses purify, you should be stacking your ice. For example, you're playing melee. If you jump back in and I know you don't have purify, I'll just ping you and I'll freeze you and you should be dead, you know?
I think one of the bigger differences, especially before 6.15, was keeping track of Purify, but also knowing when to reserve your super flares so that you can consecutively sunset one for 6 seconds.
Yeah.
And this is back when you had 2 charges Paradox. And as well as using the free super flare reset from the LB effectively. In general, you can make a big difference just by paying attention to guard and purify on the enemy team and marking for your team to attack those targets while you UCC them.
Yep. I think
multiple
the most
seconds.
important thing... Oops, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, the most important thing is just marking the targets you're gonna freeze. Because, like, if no one takes advantage of it, it's pretty useless, you know? They're stunned, but you're not gonna, like, do damage yourself.
Yep.
one thing I would say though is that it's very interesting that like the ranged, like we're in the ranged meta right now. Like as a melee player, it's usually better for me to just follow my ranged call. Like whatever the ranged call, I just go for it. As opposed to you know, making the call myself or whatever. What do you guys think are like the best jobs that like, or are there any jobs that you fear in solo queue? Like you think like, oh, if you know, like if I wanted to counter black mage, what should I pick?
Monk.
Good monks are scary. Dude, I remember playing against Jay once. I didn't get to play the game at all. Bro,
Sorry, bro.
I got out of spawn and he had an astral.
The
and I
balcony.
got LB'd again and I died.
The balcony gaming,
My
dude.
bad, my bad.
That was a really fun experience.
Yeah, well, don't we got 3 monk players on deck. Don't worry, we're gonna talk about monk in a second.
Dirty.
I want to know if there's any other class. Like, is this it? Is it over? Like, does everybody have to either play black mage or monk? Is there another class that they could pick to counter you? Is there anything they could do?
Ninja doesn't do the job by itself, but you can put Ninja with anyone else who's willing to support you, and you can do a number on the enemy Black Mage. Especially since the Black Mage's HP pool is so low, it's really easy to bring them under the threshold for the Ninja LB to kill them instantly.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're entering the monk game right now. So we got a couple of monk enjoyers here.
Of course.
Yeah. So who wants to start with the
mean,
monk game?
We all
well,
three are like very different play styles though.
That's what's dope about it though. So just playstyles in general kind of raises the bar, lowers the bar for potential in a lot of areas. So it's like one person would be like, okay, I'm going to play like a rat and only media drive certain people on a 60 seconds, or you have brawler monks or like super peel monks. So it's kind
Yeah,
of
that's
like
called
a
the
mixed
random
bag.
play style. That's called playing ninja, but you pretend like you're a monk. Cause that's, I swear, bro, that's literally how like it feels to play against Remy. Like, or anyone that's like ever seen like matchups where like I'm against Remy, or I've seen just Remy play in general, but like mostly just like Monk Ditto, where like I'm against him. It is actually so fucking AIDS to fight against this monk because he actually plays like a ninja. Like that guy plays like he has like half the HP he does, but no. And it's so fucking annoying because I'm like a actual fucking like monkey and I just like go in all the time. And he's just gonna be running around like Benny Hill. It's so fucking frustrating. But it's like one way to make it work, but it very much depends. Like the playstyle in Monk is like that's literally gonna be like the make or break for like whatever matchup you're good in. Because like Monk itself, I think has just like really good matchups against like basically any job in the game because you have like the speed advantage, you have the tankiness advantage, and you have the burst damage advantage. So it's just a matter of like putting your tools on the table and like making it work, right? But yeah, like the playstyle is really gonna be like what determines like what things you're like better at dealing with. Like I know Remy's better at like countering bursts and stuff like that. Well, maybe not, but he's better at like just kiting and stuff like that. Because he's more used to like playing less like tankier jobs. Me
I,
myself, I'm more like I go in all the fucking time no matter what. Like I think I'm one of the very few people that actually doesn't need to keep track of Purify because I just kill the people before they like make it work. Like I don't care about guard, I don't care about Purify because like I don't know, I just use game sense only. I don't keep track of anything. Like I usually like to do my bursts and reavers because most people don't do that, so no one really expects it. And usually that works out pretty well.
Yeah, I get that.
one thing also is that Aurelia is a big fan of the space created monk. You want to talk about the space created monk, Aurelia?
Yeah, basically, if I don't take the most damage in the match, I played Monk wrong.
Yeah, pretty much. Like Monk is an actual tank. Like you should be eating a fuck ton of damage on Monk.
That's what I try to do. Because the more you soak, the less damage they can use to kill people on your team, right?
Yeah, and it also works against like it works against them because of Riddle Verse. And like if you're smart about using real Riddle Verse like proactively instead of reactively, then you're gonna like actually nuke people super hard. I don't know if anyone ever clipped it, but there was that one clip, I think it was like one a week two. No, it wasn't in the Wolves League, but it was during scrims between Irish's team and Airdot's team. Charlotte actually got like the fucking like the strongest riddle verse I've ever witnessed. Like she actually killed two people just from riddle verse damage, no other buff whatsoever. Because people just sat on her and she pressed the button before dying.
Mm.
So yep, Rip Bozo. Like riddle verse damage is actually insane. And people kind of sleep on it because like I don't know, they use it more as a defensive than offensive tool, even though it's like very strongly an offensive tool.
I
Right.
see. Yeah. Okay.
Because it doesn't proc automatically. So you have to be very proactive about it. You can't like use it reactively. It's not like you're getting heat and then you just press it. Like the only time you can do that is when you're peeling off and you use it as like an extra pot. But that's like the least value you can get out of the button. It's really bad because like you're not using any of the like damage built in the button.
So, what do you think about like tank monk or assassin monk? Like, cause in general, the way I play monk is I just sit back, I roll my GCD on whoever's hitting my range or whatever. I just roll my GCD. Then as soon as I have Phantom Rush, I just jump the Black Mage. Like,
I think aggressive monk is better to deal with like stuff like Black Mage or like CC heavy comps because if you have the offensive, like the problem with CCs is that they need to like almost every CC has like some wind up to it, right? Like Black Mage needs to do at least two GCDs to CC you, right? Or well, they can do it in less, but a meaningful CC is like at least two GCD in Black Mage. So it's like most of your bursts on Monk can be done in like one or two GCD, so if you have the speed advantage, which you will have if you're a monk, then you can just like, if you're tagging the offensive, you're probably gonna diff them as long as like you're playing your cards right. And if you're like more sitting in the back and like sitting on like one, two people, like you do on like a ninja or like a reaper maybe, and you get less value out of it, especially against like black mage. But
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit better against jobs like Grand Mage and Summoner though, because like Rain Mage doesn't CC as hard, but it does a lot of like sustained damage. But if you stun them, they're gonna break because if they're out of melee combo, they need to cast. Whereas like where like Black Mage has a lot of like instant and like high mobility from AM, Rain Mage doesn't really have that outside of their melee combos, so they have to be more careful once they're like out of it. So like just sitting on them is like all but more effective.
Yeah, I'd say that too. It's like a good monk, I think, can do it all at that point. If
Yeah.
you like try to balance it out. So
Hmm.
you can super aggro off top, and then the second your media is about 10 seconds to pop, you're in assassin mode pretty much. And then the second you kill somebody and push a lead, you're back to just frontline tanking and pretty much just going crazy in their front and back line just because of versatility with Thunderclap.
Yeah. Also, like
The
Meteor Dive CC is really strong. People kind of underrate it. Like
Such a hit.
people, yeah,
you mean like just the dry meteor drive, just the dry one, like
yeah,
just
yeah,
hit him.
yeah, yeah. Like a lot of people don't consider like the hard. Like people tend. It's really weird because like people mention the hard CC on Reaper, right? Like it's a God break and it's AOE, so like people mention that more because it doesn't do damage in itself, right? Whereas like meteor dive does damage. Like most people think of it as a damage button and not a utility button. But I think it's like also a really good utility button because it's such, like it's a really short cooldown. So you, like it's a really good tool to like break guard and like turn like something that would be like a loose situation or like a standstill into like a win condition. Even
Hmm.
if you're not like killing them directly, the fact that you like you can guard break or like set up a certain play because of the hard CC that comes with it, like purified or whatever, and you can't even react out of it because the monk is like usually actionable like slightly faster than the person getting meteor dived is, so usually you can like squeeze one GCD before they can do anything out of your meteor dive, so you usually have the advantage in that like situation.
Yeah, one thing actually I noticed is that people always burn Purify on Meteor Drive anyway. So like
Yeah.
they land, they have no Purify, and they just get stunned. So that's something to consider as well. Do you think Monk deserves S tier or A tier? I think it's S tier just because it's the only melee that could like
I think
put
it's
the
S
Black Mage
tier.
down.
Yeah,
It's
it's like a
S
low
tier.
S tier. It'll lose
It's
to
like Black
Reaper,
Mage. It's like
but
a good monk is like a big diff. But you
yeah.
can jump diff monk though. Like Black Mage.
I
God,
think
don't
I'll
get me.
probably put Monk in A tier,
Oh,
but
okay.
there's a lot I'll have to say about that.
Well, what's the reason? Like, why would you put it in A tier instead of S tier?
Oh, it's already mentioned, but I climbed on Gaia to about 7k playing Monk, which is top 10, something with like 70% win rate. But
So
so
you're
the current thing is that Black Mage is really strong, and that leads to a kind of meta where you can really easily burn your Purify. And then once you burn your Purify, then you don't really have any like sense of safety at melee range. And to really make a big difference, as a monk, you have to be in melee range to get the Earth Supply and get the Phantom Rush combo going. Otherwise, if you have Enlightenment and play like a rat, then other
Yeah.
jobs can contribute far more than you. And ultimately, the job is very reliant on you landing the Mayo Drive combo into a kill. But as much as people don't really want to admit it, there's a lot of counterplay to it. The enemy team can counterplay it by assisting the person getting Mayo Drive. Even the person getting Mayo Drive can realize when they're about to be targeted, and if they guard the Enlightenment, then it's guaranteed that they won't be one-shot solo by the monk. In scenarios where the monk uses the Mail Drive for a team kind of base kill, then it's quite effective, yes. But other jobs can achieve the same, like Reaper, which can achieve a 2-second stun instead of a 3.5-second stun, but instead it's AoE. So I would say I would put it in A tier just because you won't automatically win just because you play Monk. Whereas Black Mage, if you are kind of competent at it, then you're enough of a threat that the game changes just because you're there. Whereas Monk has to deal with a lot of the current matchup kind of like issues that are currently plaguing solo queue, where it's very range and CC heavy, and definitely very black mage heavy.
I can see that. I think like big issue is that people don't understand. Like, yeah, you have a 60k HP pool, but outside of Riddle, you have no true damage reduction, and it's just the TC shield that you get. It's like what 4k, 6k.
I think it's
That
6k.
shit'll just
It's
yeah,
like,
that
it's
shit'll
like
burn
half a
through.
GCD.
Yeah, that shit'll get burned through like instant. So
It's
they just fall
6K.
over after.
Yeah.
It's 6k.
But I think it's quite negligible as like a
Oh,
shield kind of tool, because
absolutely.
usually one just use it as like movement tool. At most, there's
for
versatile use in it and like trying to save a teammate for being
Yeah.
invested, but ultimately it's a far more of a movement tool than a survival tool. Riddle's weakness is that it doesn't offer any kind of like passive damage mitigation. So there is definitely a big value to playing Monk like a tank and soaking up damage during your supply and hoping to get a big proc off of it. But if the enemy team just bursts you down instantly before you can even use it, then you won't really get much value out of that. And as the game gets more and more familiar with people, I feel that people will be more inclined to either ignore the Monk with Earth Up or burst them down instantly. Especially since Monk has to be melee ranged to commit to a lot of their damage, that it makes them quite an easy target for the enemy team if they're composed and expecting the Monk to make a play.
I think one issue is that like putting Monk and Black Mage in the same tier implies that they are like actually close, but really Black Mage is like there should be an SS tier probably.
I don't
Eh,
personally don't agree with that.
So you can just keep Black Mage's S and then move Monk down to A. I think that would accomplish the same, because I think
Yeah.
Black Mage is kind of peerless right now.
I think Black Mage, I don't think there's be an SS tier. That's quite a big leap, but I definitely think that Black Mage and Monk aren't equivalent in how they can change the game.
Would you? So you said
Until what
so.
tier, please?
Actually, we got a little new piece of information because I didn't know that you had climbed in Japan or whatever on Monk on to 7K. Damn. Okay, gamer.
I
So,
played more
are
on
you
Monk than Black Mage, actually.
are you a fan of the tank monk or the rat monk?
I think Monk is pretty versatile. You shouldn't commit to any kind of like single play style, and you should just adjust based on the enemy comp and based on your comp. For example, if
Okay.
your team is mostly ranged, then diving in will just get you killed regardless of the enemy team comp. Whereas if your team has melee or tanks that can back you up, then you can definitely get good value out of Riddle Earth, as well as getting good value out of being ultra aggressive. So I would say it's ultimately something that you should adjust based on the matchup and the circumstances. Because I think to take the most advantage of the Monk toolkit, that you have to be very versatile and be ready to adjust to defensive, offensive, or whatever the situation may demand for your team to be able to win in the end.
I
Big
see.
agree.
Okay. I just want to ask if there's do you see any job here that we could put an S tier next to Black Mage?
Absolutely not.
No.
Blue Mage.
Oh yeah, Blue Mage. Blue Mage is S because it saves you from playing the game, dude.
Where are
God
the
bless.
Bard believers at, bro?
Please.
All right, where should I put Bard, Ellie? Tell
Bro,
me
I
where-
feel like I'm the only person who likes Bard.
I don't know where Bard
Like, if I didn't buy
Actually,
Web, Bard would be A tier.
I
Bard's
think that
pretty lit.
the
Yeah, Bard is really good. Thank you,
the
Shale.
3 second silence.
3 second
Like,
silence and bind like on a short cooldown.
Yeah,
good.
and like the cleave damage is insane.
What's the so you're the fizz ranged position in the Wolves League tournament ship. Can you tell us about like where the fizz range dynamic? So we just had like a long discussion about how Monk handles Black Mage, but how does the fizz range handle Black Mage?
So Bardens, you can kind of shut them down by silencing them, but it's not too effective since they have Purify. And it's what's the cooldown on it? Is it 25 seconds?
for the silence. I don't remember.
I'll
you
say it
check
was
it?
20.
Is it 30?
We'll check it. We'll check it.
Okay. But the silence is actually really effective, especially if someone already burns Purify.
It's 20.
Yeah, so it's really, really good. Like, especially-
Yeah, and you
don't
also
have
have you have WP, which also gives you push effect.
Oh, that's true. You give
Yeah,
your
Warden's,
ally.
yeah.
Yeah, Warden
extra
Spin is
purify.
actually massive value. Like I think Bard is just a really good counter pick for a lot of jobs. Cause like
Well, in-
LB, okay, I think the LB on Bard is kind of copium, but it is like solid. Like it's a guaranteed spire basically. So
The damage up is pretty nice, too.
like Bard does like close the gap a tiny bit between like a team that runs Astro and a team that doesn't, right?
Well, I'm not sure.
Also, you
Looking
do
into
bring the
healers,
faster DCD, which is actually like a little bit undervalued in my opinion. Faster DCD is really good.
I will say that like playing solo queue more, I think that the 3-second instant silence is so insane. Like
Yeah, it is.
you like you will just be pressing W with a button and then your button doesn't go off and you just monkey into the enemy team dry W. It's like, wait,
Yeah, and then they can just
bro,
like
I had to
bind you.
purify.
Or they do it the other way around. They bind you first, so you're like, alright. So I just go like, and then you just get silence, and it's like, oh, alright, bozo.
And the
Baiting your
bind is really
purify.
strong, too.
Yeah, baiting your
Yeah.
purify with bind and then when you see the resilience fall off, you just hit him with silence.
Mm-hmm.
In
Or you do it the
general,
other way around. You silence them first, and then you wait for them to go, and then you like bind them in the middle of your team.
I was
Go
going to
ahead.
say that in general, the reason silence is so strong because that it doesn't have a notable sound effect to it compared to stun. When you get stunned,
Yeah,
it's a
you
very
don't hear the
notable sound effect,
lightning.
and you can immediately
Yeah.
purify. Whereas for silence, it's very subtle, and you have to really be on the lookout for it. Otherwise, everything seems
The
normal. Because you also still have your agency of movements, and it may seem that everything's fine still, but in reality you're silenced, and your recuperates aren't going off, your guards aren't going off, and you're dying. So that's why silence is so strong, and also so hated, because it's quite literally hard to deal with when it's so subtle compared to stun.
and like the purify is so slow compared to how fast the silence is. Like stuns in this game go off before the character reaches you, so like I'll get stunned before the primal rend character model reaches me, and that gives me time to react before he presses other buttons. But with silence, the silence goes off so fast that like I'm already taking like triple imperial arrow or whatever by the time I purify. Like it's like
Yeah,
boom.
the Bard burst is actually pretty huge.
Yeah.
I think it's upwards of 30,000 because I remember testing it with Liv for the Wolf's Cup.
So you can do like 12, 8, 2, 2. Yeah, it's probably around 30k because then you have to factor in the Apex buff.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to see, because remember, I think we had Bard a little bit lower last time, but I'm glad to see Bard. People are
I
starting
think
to recognize
okay,
it.
I think Bard is like A or B. The problem with Bard is that the skill required to play Bard effectively is pretty high. No, like
Really?
Black Mage where you can go in like bosom mode and still be effective. Like Bard, you actually need to press your buttons in the right order to do stuff. Like Silence, just pressing Silence on cooldown will do some stuff, but pressing Silence and bind at the right time is like the most important thing.
So I'm a melee player, right? So I have like a strong bias. I think that range characters just get it easy. Can you like elaborate more on Bard being a skill intensive class?
Well, you're kind of squishy, and like who you who you give Warden spin on actually is important because it will mean that like you have to move in different ways, right? Like if you give Warden spin to like your melee whatever to like so that they do like the go in for you, if they don't get value out of it, then they can just like the enemy team can just notice that and like sit on you, and you don't really have anything against that except repelling shot, right?
Mm.
So like the problem with Bard compared to like something like Dancer and yeah, mostly Dancer because Machinist is a little bit different, but mostly Dancer is that like if people go on you, you don't really have anything like against them. Like you can't really play around it besides repelling shot and just like counter bursting them like a monk would do. So you have to be really careful. Like your positioning matters a lot. Like pressing, like doing your like rolling your GCD and then like LOSing as soon as you can is like very very important on Bard because if you're like always like and like out in the open, you're actually gonna get bodied super fast.
Okay, okay. So I think like the difficulty is in the reverse direction. If the because I feel like melee is like very difficult because I need a lot of, let's say I need to be playing very good to hunt down the opponent ranged. It's a
Yeah,
very
it's like
difficult job.
yeah, the
But the
thing with
ranged
ranged is
also has
that
a hard job. Like the ranged also has a hard job surviving against like a serial killer melee, right?
yeah, it's like on bot you're forced to play back. You can't like go in like a dancer or a black mage because you don't have the tankiness for that. So like if you want to chase, you have to be really careful. Like it has to be a really conscious decision because if you overextend, you're actually gonna get one shot. And there's like absolutely nothing you can do about it unless like your team actually backs you up. But
Okay. All right. Well, I learned something new. I want to talk about Red Mage. I think that even with the multiple nerfs on Red Mage, it seems still pretty strong. Like, do we agree?
Yeah, it's still really strong.
It's still good.
yeah, I think
Isn't that
white
weird?
shift is seeing more used lately. Actually, I think white shift is actually like really good value. It's like a really
I
good like hybrid between support and damage.
I wanted to see Aurelia and Shib's opinion on Red Mage because I know that both of you run Red Mages in competitive, no?
Yes.
Red Mage is really good, mostly because of also the damage, but also Magic Barrier and Frazzle are just super strong for like LP, especially not too much in solo queue because people can't really like capitalize off the buffs and the debuffs. But in LP, it's like really broken.
Could you
Yeah,
explain what makes
Frazzle removes one pot.
Yeah, could you explain what makes the Red Mage buff super good? Maybe after watching this video, the player base will start using it,
So
Let's hear the tech.
Frazzle is a gigantic heal down at 20%. It's the same thing as Scholar modification. So I think it makes Recuperate do like 11,000 compared to 15k.
Oh, okay.
So it makes your healing super weak, and it also gives a 10% phone up on everyone it hits. That's like an AoE onslaught.
Oh, okay.
And Magic Barrier is a AoE mitigation and healing up. So your pots heal for like 18k with Magic Barrier, and you have I think it's 10 seconds of healing up. 20%.
When do you pick defense over offense?
It is 10 seconds.
It's just super situational. But like if I guess like if people have LBs coming up and you notice it, you can Magic Barrier in advance so you can take less damage from the LBs. Or if you want to go for a big LB combo, then you go for Frazzle.
Okay, I see. And do you think that even with the nerfs, like the damage Red Mage does is still fine? Like I've noticed that like Red Mages are playing differently. Like usually when I go into solo queue, I'm just getting hit with solo LBs now. Like the Red Mage with just two melee hits plus solo LB. They don't even care about getting like multiple people in the limit break.
Yeah, you can still like one-shot someone almost with the LB because you can do Verse Flare into Southern Cross and it does like 45,000 or something. the damage is really good. It just you have to know when to go in to actually be effective.
Do you think that red mage survives against black mage pretty well? Like, does it do well?
Probably not.
It depends.
All right, can you give me some situations?
If the red mage already has free stacks on them, then going in is probably not the greatest idea. Right? If they're going to lose
Hello?
that. And it's pretty easy for that to happen, so...
Yeah, because they just paradox you.
Yeah, give me one. So for the I'm sorry, there was like a little bit for solo queue, do you think that red mage is like an A tier job? Like, it's not gonna be B tier, like you don't need to be in you don't need to know like niche applications for it to work, or you could just pick it up like strong in like pretty much any generic situation?
Yeah, I think you can definitely do a lot of work on red mage even if you're not too great at it.
Okay.
I think it'll be A tier for solo queue.
All right. What do you think about Machinist? I think Machinist is pretty good, if I'm being quite honest. But I want to hear your opinions. Everyone, if you guys are familiar with Machinists.
I mean, I've played a couple of scrims because our comp runs around like pick based, and just having the option to have like a fatty stun and then just killing somebody inside their guard is a little ridiculous in my opinion. Like, just the amount of pressure just having a machinist on the field and how much instant damage and like having a free knockback. The turret is actually super good too, considering it gives damage, or not damage down, but like does it give damage down? I think it's damage taken increased if you're standing in it, so it's a really good just point pushing utility. And some machinists are actually super cracked and they just sit on it and just get the constant shield on shield on shield, and it makes them super tanky. So like the comp we ran was like monk machinist, and god, like you can just look at somebody and they die. You can like either drive them and then just drill them through guard and they die. So it's like the potential is like super high, especially in solo queue as well, considering everybody's just gonna either run in and guard and do nothing, or like burn their shit for free, and then oh, I guess I'm just dead to a drill, or oh, chainsaw XD, or just random shit.
The main thing I like about Machinist is that you pretty much have like a pseudo monk in the range position with the air anchor drill, or not, sorry, air anchor marksman spite. You got stun for 12k into a 36k damage move. Guy's almost dead. If you put wildfire on top of it, guy's actually dead. But it's weaker than the monk one because they can recuperate in between. But I really enjoy Machinists on my team, and I think that like if I was a ranged player and I wanted to pick something to like just counter black mages all day, I would go with the Machinist route.
There is a Machinist combo that will instantly kill black mages, about a chance to recuperate as long as there aren't any like shields or like defensive buffs up. If you hit a wildfire into a scattergun into LB, the LB and the wildfire detonation by itself is 48k, and that'll kill a black mage instantly. So they're quite good at dealing with black mages if they're alone and able to get the 2-hit scattergun.
Oh yeah, dude, and the
So go for the 12k wildfire plus 36k smite for the instant kill.
I think just having like, yeah, and also I think just having like a AoE, not AoE, the just the option to put the fear in the black mage. That's value for me, dude. we're gonna start entering Shib's main job here. You're gonna save us here because I don't know where to put Dancer. Where should I put Dancer?
I think currently Dancer is probably A tier because it got a lot stronger at this patch because you can effectively make your Black Mage more tankier with Curing Waltz and Fan Dance, and you also have a lot of mitigation for yourself if they want to go for you, so you're pretty tanky.
What is where do you think it belongs in A tier? Like if this is a ordered tier list?
It's probably near the bottom just because it's hard to play effectively. Like, if you want to pick it.
Wouldn't that make it name brand required, maybe?
Oh, yeah,
think it's
yeah, maybe.
Do you think that it's a good job, but the main problem is your skill level on the job?
Yeah, that's definitely the issue for a lot of dancers.
Okay, so now you said that, you know, I can't let you go. You have to give me the tech. How do I play Dancer good?
So there's a hidden blender strat, as he likes to call it.
Yeah, the hidden blunder is honing dance into Starfall, Fan Dance, and Saber Dance. It's like 45,000 AOE if you actually get honing dance off. But if you use your LB and charm people, you can instantly get the combo off and almost wipe people by yourself.
Oh, that's super important. Because usually the weakness is the weakness for Dancer was that you need a team, but you just said that you could just wipe them out yourself. You know, that if
You
people
can almost
got
wipe
good
it
at
out
that.
by yourself, but you need at least like one DCD from other people, which is pretty easy
I
to
mean,
get.
well, like what you just get that plus a Phantom Rush, right? Or a
Yeah,
Nastron.
literally anything plus the Dancer combo is a kill.
Okay. We're gonna see some of that, right? In the tournament. We're gonna see the Gunbreaker double down from Charlotte into the fucking Slamma Jamma combo, hopefully. Maybe you already did it a couple times. Dude,
Yeah,
I'm
we
pretty
did
sure
it last week.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad to have some actual Dancer insight. Could you repeat the proper combo again so people know what to do?
It's honing dance into Starfall dance, into Fan Dance, into Saber Dance. It's about 42 to 47,000 depending on if it's single target or AoE. But AoE is 42,000, single target is 47. If you get all the procs off, then it's that much, but it's about 30k if you don't get like the full honing dance.
Okay. I just wanted to circle back here before we continue forward. Our next job is going to be Summoner, but for Nishi, do you feel like when you play Black Mage, do you feel like the job danger level when you're playing Black Mage, is this in a suitable order for you? Like, you're worried about Monk the most, and then maybe the Machinist, or you don't worry about the Red Mage that much. Is this like an accurate depiction?
Yeah, that looks accurate. Monk, Machinist, and I mean, I would put Red Mage before Bard, but yeah. But Red
Okay.
Mage is, like we said before, if you already have stacks on them, it's not that much of a threat, but if they catch you off guard, you, you could potentially die, but if you're ready for it, I think Red Mage isn't that much of a problem either.
Okay. Alright. So moving on, I want to talk about Summoner. I actually think Summoner is pretty good. Based on my experience in solo queue, like if Black Mage wasn't the cooked job, you know, we would be playing the Summoner serial killer game. Because it's pretty much just cranking AoE GCDs all the time. And Mountain Buster is just so annoying. It's like a 15-second cooldown just for like a
2-second
Purify burn. You have to burn Purify every 15 seconds. You get no chance. What are your guys' opinions? Anyone can jump in if you have any opinions about Summoner.
I would say at best, I would probably put Summoner into like low A. They do have a decent amount of AoE damage, but most of it is reliant on their LB, and outside of their LB, I would say that their damage isn't anything remarkable, and it's quite risky, and in general, it doesn't bring something to the table that other jobs can't do better, like say Dragoon, for example. If I had to pick, I would always pick Dragoon over Summoner. And on top of that, one of the weaknesses of Moundbuster is that it's one of the few actions that has a delay before the status effect kicks in. So you can see the animation, and you can jump away, so it binds you midair, but your momentum is still kept up, so you can be binded in a safe spot. And I think
Oh, I
that's a
didn't know
glaring
that.
weakness. Whereas, for example, Red Mage Resolution in Black Shift or Bard's Propelling Shot, both of those are instant.
Yeah, I wasn't
And
aware that
yeah.
that you could actually do like snapshotting games with the summoner CC. Were you gonna keep going? I think I stopped you.
Oh no, that's it.
And Jay, you were gonna say something?
Oh no, I was gonna say like what people don't. I feel like what they don't take into account, and this is from like monk experience with enlightenment, is that abilities with a draw-in effect. It's almost like a pseudo stun in a way, because I know for a fact that casters can't. They just can't press any buttons when they're being drawn in, or it's like a easy cancel from, say, you mound buster somebody on a corner, and then there's another person on the left of that. They just get sucked in and they can't move until the animation's done. So like, it kind of cucks a lot more people than you would like think. For example, like enlightenment, if you're just pressing it just to press it, then sure for Meteor. But at the same time, if you press it on a caster, it has like an increased effect to where sure they can recuperate, but while they're sliding, they can't really retaliate without any instant cast. So it's like super like annoying, even for a melee as well. Of say I'm trying to build Phantom Rush combo, and I just get like randomly drawn in, like say Dark Knight or
The
Summoner.
scattergun is
Yeah, Scattergun too.
particularly annoying when I'm
You just
rolling my
can't press
GCD.
buttons. Yeah, yeah.
It's fucking
You just
annoying.
cannot press buttons, and you're just like, bro.
Yeah.
Or you have to use a TC, you have to use a gap closer. It's just like really effective.
I would definitely say of its regular kit, that Moundbuster is definitely the all-star.
It's one of those jobs along with like Bard and Dancer that gets better depending on your team comp, but it gets worse depending on your team comp. Because if you don't have like a front line or anything, and your damage is, you have to go in for your damage, and you can get caught out and easily die because you have no mobility.
Yeah, I agree. And then there's also the matter of combo ability. Like we all know, summoners can combo quite well and AoE quite a bit with Bahamut, but you still need a team to follow up on you to secure the kills most of the time.
Yeah, and you have like no single target like kill advantage.
Okay. One thing I will say about Summoner and why I don't think it's name brand required, or like why I think it deserves to stay in A, is that the job is very, very simple and it accomplishes what it needs to accomplish without any kind of niche hidden technology or like skill. Like you press the Bahamut button, people will not guard it because it doesn't have a telegraph the way Dragoon does, so you get your damage out and you just roll your GCD and you're effective. Whereas if you wanted to do the same on Dragoon, it would be much harder. And it's the same with like the Dancer skill or trying to play like Samurai in the modern metagame. Like to get a Zantetsuken off, you gotta be a fucking calculating. Like you pretty much need like tracking every single cooldown ever. Okay. But like the summoner, you just pull up and you drop the Bahamut and you're like 20 yards away. You know, it's very simple, very straightforward, and it works. It just works. And I think the it just works kind of angle is like super valuable for like a player who's like starting their PvP experience, you know?
Yeah, that's very straightforward for the most part. I would say Summoner's skill-intensive parts would just be knowing when to put Radiant Shield on other people to help them live, and using the Cursed Phoenix LB when you need to.
God.
It's quite good, but I would say it's very, very situational, and you
Yeah, it's
definitely
3 out of
need an eye
7.
for it.
Yeah, 3 out of 7 times I've you would Phoenix, but like in most cases you're just like, oh, Bahamut, and it's you just can't track the damage you're gonna take from Mega Flare, and you're just like, oh well, shit, and you just die.
I think just having an option is quite good.
Oh, for
because
sure.
It can be quite good if you put Phoenix in a correct position where it can debuff multiple targets instead of debuffing the same target in the back line, for example.
Does Phoenix still does and interacts like Bahamut does, just the
So
lowest target?
Phoenix is
So-
actually. Go ahead, you first.
Oh, Bahamut targets the lowest HP within its radius, while Phoenix targets the closest target within its radius.
Oh, that's so bad.
It can be bad, but also good in its own way, depending on how you place the actual summon.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I will say that Phoenix is heavily slept on, and well, my one of my friends who's also like a very strong player, SJ Sharks, he couldn't make it today, but he did say that he thinks that Phoenix is slept on to an egregious degree, and just the fact that like the point holding potential of a Phoenix summon is like way super valuable if you fear like you have to fight into the enemy LBs. Like if you're fighting into opponent LBs, then there's a strong case to be made for Phoenix. I will say that this sounds more like organized play, and maybe like the solo queue brain people who are in your matches will not think of this, but it's something to consider. I think that Phoenix definitely has some hidden value that we haven't really tapped into, which is it's waiting to be discovered pretty much.
One of the issues with Phoenix is that, in general, one of the best defenses is just killing the enemy, right? You know, Bahamut into AoEs and Knockborn, try and kill them all or to kill you. So, I would say that Phoenix does have its uses, but it's quite uncommon, and it's usually when you're already on the back foot, when you are like engaged and have to commit, but you're definitely behind. In that situation, the healing for Phoenix, which is about 32k total, on top of the debuffs, can be quite the game changer. But otherwise, you definitely should be using Bahamut most of the times just to secure the kills if possible. But in those rare situations, Phoenix can be quite good as well.
Speaking of hidden value, I think we summarized Summoner quite well, and you are right. Like, who needs defense if you just kill the enemy team 5-head? I want to talk about Dark Knight. I don't know where to put Dark Knight. So one thing I know is that you played Dark Knight for like from 0 to 4K initially, right, Rin?
I played Gunbreaker on Tis account for like 0 to 2.5k, and then I played Dark Knight from 2.5k to 6.5k.
So where is Dark Knight?
I would say it's like mid B tier-ish.
Really?
Yeah. It's quite good in solo queue because you can be like quite literally a tank and engage for your team, and you know, people still hit living dead even in crystal rank. But I would say its capabilities as a job are not up to notch compared to jobs in A tier or S tier.
Yeah.
The
So
issue is that you have to risk quite a bit in order to contribute. And what I mean is that, you know, when you use Shadowbringers, you use 12k HP, or you have to use Dark Arts from your TBN to be able to cast it without any penalty. But to do that just for 12k, I mean 6k damage is not a great trade overall. And
damn.
once people realize that you're just there to soak up the damage, then obviously they'll just start targeting other teammates, and then if you're alone, you cannot really do much by yourself.
Do you think that it plays more like a damage tank, or like where would you place it among the tanks?
I would say, Well, we all know Gunbreaker is kind of more of a DPS than a tank, and Paladin is kind of more like a support than a tank. I would say Dark Knight's probably the closest to a true tank, right? And you definitely want to be frontline. You want to hit as many people with Salted Earth and Quietus as possible. And you want to bait people into hitting you because you get really big value. So most tank cooldowns last only 10 seconds, and they give you 20% mitigation. Salted Earth lasts 10 seconds as well, but it gives you the buff that gives you the mitigation, which is plus 20%. So you can have it up to a maximum of 15 seconds, on top of the healing from Salted Earth, and on top of TBN and Quietus. So it's quite close, quite literally the only real tank, I would say, right now. But I would say that the strength of Dark Knight is it's quite snowbally. You can be quite aggressive with Dark Knight, using Shadowbringers and pushing yourself to Pink of Death and using all your recuperates to maintain it, while like pumping a huge amount of damage. But that only really works in situations where you already have the advantage. So if you are fighting from a even like 5v5 perspective, it's not as effective because, well, you're quite literally just damaging yourself and killing yourself. Whereas if you're on a losing team, then it's really, really hard to be able to come back as Dark Knight because you're not able to make the most out of your kit. You're not able to safely use Shadowbringers as much as you want to be able to pump out damage.
So what? So you're saying that like the job kind of works against itself, sort of like you want to be low HP to do damage, but if you're low HP, you're gonna die.
Yeah, definitely. You want to use resources, which are your HP and your MP, in order to cast Shadowbringers to do damage, but that's not always possible. So most of the time, you do end up being just like a general frontline tank, but when you have the advantage and enemies, retreating and differently down resources, then you can be really, really aggressive with plunges and resets.
Would you say that if you were to compare Warrior, would it be better or worse than Warrior?
I would probably say equal. It's really hard to gauge because I think both have their own unique playstyles, and they definitely need quite a bit of teamwork. But as far as solo queue would go, I'll probably put Dark Knight above Warrior for now.
Okay, we're gonna transition into Warrior, but before we go, does anyone else have any objections or opinions about Dark Knight?
That's it. That sounds about right. Shit's unkillable when it's played right.
Okay. What about you, Ellie? I remember before you were saying that like Dark Knight has like the
Wait,
great.
just muted.
Oh, never mind. Thank you. So anyway, we're just gonna move on to Warrior. How do you guys feel about Warrior and solo queue after the nerfs?
I think the nerfs are a little bit too much. It's just like the same issue that Bryn was talking about, where you do really, really well when your team is winning, and also using your life to actually press your buttons and not die. Everything outside of Primal Rend still is just really hard to deal with. Like hit and run kind of playstyle works really well, but if you're just trying to soak damage, you're just going to start dying and dying over and over.
I would say one issue that people have is that they try to play Warrior like an actual tank, which it really quite isn't, because its toolkit isn't really well geared for that. It's more like AoE CC'er that just happens to have lifesteal kind of deal. And so you kind of like have to play in and out. You can't always be on the front lines, otherwise you'll just die instantly. I would say that Warrior has gotten weaker, not as a result of their nerfs, but because people have gotten more used to the game, and they realize, oh, Warrior's actually kind of squishy. You just kill the Warrior instantly.
Right.
And people have also stopped like grouping up for the 5-man Primal Rends and stuff like that.
Range meta, let's go.
Yeah.
Also, low key, as a melee player going into a warrior, like the 1 or 2 warrior players that still play in Crystal, like just standing behind a warrior to not get clipped by a Primal Scream is like super value. I'm not too sure why they made it a cone, but it seems so awkward to press where like you're like, oh, there's like 3 people in front of me, and then it snapshots and you only hit 2, and you're like, well, you know.
I think honestly, if it wasn't a cone, it'd be quite overpowered.
Oh, true. But I don't know. It just seems like it's lacking. Definitely not. I feel like it's not what Square intended it for Warrior to be. Like the reckless, kind of like ideal damage. I stun a lot, but like at the same time, it's just so risky to play.
I would say like a main problem with Warrior is that people are not home ganking first, or what is it called, Blotta now? Blotta. It's like you gotta chain him first, bro. You cannot unga bunga in first. You gotta home gang him first. That's like you gotta home gang, and then you gotta wait. Like you check for their buttons. Like if you home gang and you take mad damage, just for the home gang, like you're still on your side of the map at least, right? The thing here is that like when you unga bunga in and you get like counter stunned, now you're on their side of the map. Like you're gonna get busted. But you can't just do that. You have to check for their resources first. And it is true, like I think Rin was saying it's not really like a super tanky tank. Or in general, like the tanks in this game are super poppable. Like I don't think any tank is like a super tanky tank.
Yeah.
Paladin comes close, but you still hit him with the 1 marker and he's gonna die, you know. For tanks, I think that Paladin actually goes into S tier. Which is strange to say because does Black Mage have a partner in S tier? I would say that Paladin is so busted because of just the way that cover guard. Not only does it save a teammate, it also like. So there's a difference between like saving a teammate with Astrologian, for example, or saving a teammate with like heals, or saving a teammate by stunning the opponent. Like the guy barely makes it out. He has to take like a 7-second pause from the fight. He could still be dead if there's like a proficient ninja on the team and like he snipes him in his potion channeling time. But the way Paladin like saves someone is just like you're just in the fight, the Paladin goes in, and you just dry potion in front of all their faces. There's nothing you can do. Now, there is counterplay, and the counterplay is you hit the Paladin first. Like, as soon as the match begins, I always start the Paladin. If there's Paladin on the enemy team, I mark Paladin 1 first, because he can't save anyone if he's the one that's dying. And if he has to fight for himself, like if he has to keep himself up, it's a much easier proposition than bursting through cover guard. Because by the time you've bursted through the first HP bar, you've already used most of your damage buttons. So now the Paladin is resetting the fight and you lost all your damage buttons. But if you hit the Paladin first and he has to guard at low life, well, he's very likely dead on the way out, for sure. But what are your guys' opinions regarding the Paladin cover meta and how everyone in solo queue has started potting and cover? Like I didn't expect that to happen. That solo queue people would just start reacting to cover guard and just potting immediately.
I'd say it's borderline unhealthy. It's really oppressive, especially what you're saying before. Like, effectively being able to cover guard somebody, you're just giving them full HP and 10,000 mana. So it's like, what do you do when you just press your buttons on a guy and you have no buttons left, and they just straight up like get out of jail free card or anything like that. And it's a little oppressive, especially when, say, a paladin covers a good player or it covers like a black mage, anybody like a front line, just to keep the pressure on. It's just almost always shifts the fight in their favor. I'd probably agree, especially with Sheltron too, because it's just flat damage reduction in this game right now. I would take over potency shields a majority of the time. Obviously, Black Mage can still 16k potency, but it's just damage reduction because you're always going to be taking that. Like range suppression is super good. You stay alive for so long. And don't even get me started on like if you have no purifier and you're caught in a 3-second shield bash, you're like, bruh.
So Rami also made a good point about the whole cover pot strat. I think one thing that is different about CC compared to Feast is that there's a massive amount of people in comparison to Feast watching the tournament content and stuff like that produced, kind of like this video. So things that would take longer for people to pick up on in other PvP game modes, right, is a bit more widely distributed. Like you see people on the reg like every Saturday. The paladin covers somebody and they chug and they're back in the fight, right? So I think this is kind of like an off topic, but with paladin specifically, and then all these other jobs like monk, where it's like, oh, you can 100-0 somebody. This is how you do it, right? It's super simple. Oh, this is how you can cover guard somebody. They can pawn. They can get back in the fight instantly, right? Things that are really easy to execute and be like consistent with. If it's like, oh, I have this, I should do this, right? Jobs that have that ability or have the buttons to make it very easy for people to do that with, I think people pay more attention to. So paladin, monk, black mage, red mage, those kind of jobs.
Yeah, I was actually gonna bring it up that like Aurelia and Shib, you guys are in the paladin hell meta right now, where there's a paladin every game. You have to deal with cover guard every game. Do you have any tips on how to beat it?
So my team, last week, I believe we ran Reaper for a couple matches. And we just kind of, we held W pretty much, and we didn't let go of any of the pressure. Kind of like what you were suggesting, where you put the one on the paladin, you force them to protect themselves instead of being able to just protect other people for free. I think that is a good strategy. I think that's one of paladin's weaknesses in organized play, but for solo play, until people start to see that paladin should be like a priority target whenever you can get some free damage on them, I think they're still going to be fairly strong in solo play.
Well, also like the strat is like super easy to copy. Like all the guy has to do is, I mean, we have paladins in solo queue now with cover macros. So you see the marker over your head, like the chain marker or whatever, and you just start pawning. It's super strong.
Yeah, and it's things that are really easy to pull off become like community standard almost. Kind of like how hello meant burst was ready for players that were in Feast.
Yeah. Did you want to add anything, Rin? I know that you were playing Paladin quite a bit recently.
I think Paladin is definitely quite strong, like top of, A tier quite strong, but I would say definitely not on the same level as Black Mage.
If we were going to drop it...
A Black Mage or a Paladin, I would always pick a Black Mage. Quite honestly.
Yeah, it's kind of the issue with Black Mage, right? Can you reasonably justify having anything else in the Black Mage category?
Like there's a reason
Would you
like, the top 30 on lots of data centers is just like more than half of them are just Black Mage players.
Would you put the Paladin ahead of the Monk for sure, though?
I would say definitely, yeah. Cover and Elixir is definitely strong, but I would say the biggest strength of Paladin is their LB. Having a team-wide 50% mitigation is extremely crucial in a game with such low time to kill and AoE kill potential. You can really turn fights around on top of cover as well, obviously. But I think in solo queue, it definitely is a bit weaker than in competitive play with pre-made teams, but it's just definitely still quite strong.
For Nishi, when you are playing against a paladin, do you play differently? I know Black Mage, most of the buttons are AoE anyway, but is there something that you do differently when you come across a paladin?
No, it doesn't matter that much. Not on Black Mage because I mean you just stack your freeze and that's it. But I'm sure on other jobs it's a lot more annoying to play against good paladins, just because of like a good paladin can just, for example, just cover a monk LB. If he notices the monk going on someone, he can just covers. But like on Black Mage, you just have consistent damage the whole time, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna move into Gunbreaker here. So we actually happen to have two Gunbreaker players. We got Jay, who plays Gunbreaker quite a bit. And Rin also played Gunbreaker from like 0. It was like your first class, no?
I did Gunbreaker as a challenge, like Underweight the Crystal, back before they had any Bustle. And I got the Crystal in like 55 wins, which I thought was
Hell
pretty
yeah,
good.
that's it.
And then I got like top 70 in 100 wins. So I thought this is all like pre-buff as well.
Where does Gunbreaker belong on the list?
I would say low A, low mid A. I would say.
So you're saying Gunbreaker is better than Dark Knight?
Yeah. Gunbreaker isn't a tank per se, but there's definitely a lot of play potential in Gunbreaker.
What do you think, Jay?
I feel like outside of LB and particularly on like certain maps, it's like a huge like disadvantage in general just to play Gunbreaker. Considering like, oh, I don't have Nebula on this map because they're all like range players or something, you're like, well, time to play pretty much like a damage dealer, or you can't soak as much for your team. Even with Nebula, you still can't really soak as much for your team.
So you would put it in C?
No, I'd say it's at least high B. I'd say it's definitely above the other tanks, maybe even above Dark Knight.
Like here?
Yeah.
Or here?
Rin can like
you-
definitely prove me wrong here, but I just feel like it's
yeah.
it's like lacking the necessities rather than having freedom to really just shine as its own job, let alone it even be a tank to begin with.
One of the issues with Gunbreaker is that it kind of suffers from the syndrome of only existing when it has LB, because otherwise you're not really contributing as much as, say, other jobs. You're not tanking as well as tank, or damaging as much as a real damage dealer, or healing as much as a healer. But when you do get your LB, then there's quite a bit of play potential, and especially in pre-made groups where you can reliably combo with, say, a dancer or whatnot, then you can get quite a good result. But yeah, I would agree though with like high B or low A, depending on how you...
I'm fairly certain that it's not better than Dancer, surely.
Yeah, the issue with its LB is just like Dancer LB, you can almost always get it off just because it's so big. And even if you barely get clipped by it and you run out of the animation, you're still going to get server ticked by a 2-second and drawn in. Whereas Gunbreaker, a lot of the problems is, okay, you have your combo, you have your LB, double down, no mercy up. Like even say you have a DPS junction and you have your rip or whatever up, people can just straight up walk out of Gunbreaker LB and then you just wasted 60 seconds of your life, which are debatably the most important seconds of Gunbreaker gameplay.
Yeah,
You'll never get those.
As people have been getting more used to seeing Gunbreaker, I've just been going for the instant trigger,
Yeah,
ending LB
absolutely.
as soon as possible and the double down. The thing with Dancer though is that you can instantly kill a Dancer. If a Dancer LBs and you kill them in that 1-2 second window where they're animation locked, then nothing happens. And even though a dancer's LB snapshots as soon as they press it, if you can get out of range so that your charm doesn't get extended, then there's definitely room for you not to like die instantly.
Yeah,
So-
there's counterplay to it.
I think both
Which is
jobs have
good.
quite a bit of counterplay, but also you also have like quite a bit of effectiveness if used well.
Okay, I just want to make sure that like, cause I thought that the dancer was like pretty strong. I was not sold on Gunbreaker being above dancer.
I think they're pretty equal, honestly. If it were me, I'd probably put like most of the jobs in A tier, honestly. And
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think most of the jobs are actually really good.
Yeah.
I think there's only a few outliers that are weak and a few that are weak, strong.
Okay, let's start with something that's weak. What do you think is left here that's objectively weak?
Scholar.
Scholar.
It's so sorry, but
Really, Scholar. I actually, I'm gonna disagree, but I'm gonna hear your thought process first.
I think Scholar is weak, but even though I would say it's the weakest job, especially in solo queue, I'll still put it in B tier, like lowest B tier. And I don't think the tier gap is that big in this game, where a lot of the skill is in the universal kit and the player's individual game sense. But I think Scholar is definitely quite weak outside of like certain compositions
What-
and maps.
What do you think is the reason why Scholar is weak, or what causes it to be weak?
if I had to say, it'd probably be. I think because Rin and I talked about this before, it's just the lack of agency, especially going, say, you just hit D1 and you got and like you're queuing with crystals and people who generally know how to play the game. A lot of it's just sitting back and rolling your GCD, obviously making sure people kind of don't die because the potency shields are but like the damage up and just the damage reductions are really good. But other than that, you do your job, and that's about it. That's what I've seen.
It's very
that's a
much.
sorry.
Sorry.
I don't know, I was
That's
gonna say, I think I feel the same way about Summoner, with Scholar. You kind of do your job, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't work, then you kind of just lose.
So really like the reason why I've been like kind of like a Scholar believer now is because there's two people who influenced my opinion about this. The first one was Midori. Midori ran a Scholar on his team for league play, and he was telling me about how the amount of like dot damage and shielding and mitigation is untrackable. Like the value is there, but it's hard to realize that it's doing anything. But the numbers don't lie. Like when you look at the end of the screen, like the Scholar damage is very high. It's always like constantly buttering up the opponents, like making the guy 48k instead of 50k, or like the mummification healing down, the shielding doesn't register on healing done. So if you like the way they track healing done in the game, it only counts like the healing, but shields don't register. So like you almost have to like multiply whatever number they registered for you on the end screen by 2 to like get an accurate assessment. Like if it healed 100k, it actually shielded, like with the shield, it's actually healing you 200k. In combat sprint as well was something that like he made a big proponent for as well. Like I would say like it really like gave me like a new opinion about the job. Instead of like being griefing, it was actually pretty good. On top of that, because SJ, he was the healer player in my scrim team, he decided to take it into solo queue, and he pretty much said that like if he had like another healer, like a Scholar with an Astrologian, pretty much no one on the team would ever die, because the amount of stuff that the Scholar is doing is like so much value. The only thing it's lacking is in spot healing or like on-demand GCD healing. It also doesn't have any CC for the opponents, which is why I cannot fit it. I'm not really sure where to put it here. I think it's a very good class, but it's definitely not solo queue oriented, so it kind of suffers in that regard. And because it suffers in a solo queue setting, I think I'm gonna put it in C tier, even though the job is very good in terms of like objective numeric value. The solo queue angle kind of demands that you just like do everything, right? But Scholar can't really do everything. It has like these defensive options, these passive damage options that are really good with another team member. But relying on another team member is it's a difficult proposition if you're a solo queue player. Did you want to say something, Nishi or Ellie?
I'll go. I think Scholar is like probably one of the highest like skill floor and skill ceiling job. I think I agree with Midori actually. Like I think Scholar brings a lot of like invisible value that people underestimate. Because like it doesn't do anything flashy, but what it does well, it does really well. Like it brings something that like most other job can't really bring. Also, the heal down is always really good. Like heal down in general is just really good because like you're making people like just lose so much value on their pot. And it's like a really good thing. And also, I think the ult is like alright. It's just really hard to use. I think like the ult isn't bad, but it's hard to use properly. The shield slash dot decision making is also something to keep in mind because like there's like cases where like dotting would be the better thing, but shielding can have its uses because you get like a pretty beefy like damage up. So yeah, I agree also with SJ and that like if you have a double healer comes especially like an Astro as like your go healer when you bring a Scholar in the mix. Since Scholar damage is so high, you're more like a Sage than like an actual healer. Like you're not really here for like the raw healing. You're more here for like the sustain overall for like the damage. You're just sustaining everything. You're sustaining damage. You're sustaining like buffs and stuff like that. And like D downs, it's really good. But I think for like a
Oh
solo
yeah,
queue
yeah.
perspective, it's really hard in solo queue because Scholar has this problem where like you're extremely reliant on like how good your team is. Like you'll bring stuff no matter how good your team is, but how much your team can capitalize on what you're doing in the back is like very hit or miss, and that's not really something that's like stable in solo queue, especially not solo queue because like solo queue is like actual like coin flip all the time, right? So
In
I
general,
would.
I would say that Scholar can be quite decent when you're climbing from like 0 to like, 2, 3, 4,000 because typically you would get matched with like teammates who are, higher rating and higher K potential. So playing like a peer support like Scholar can bring a lot of benefit to the table, especially if you're starting out and not necessarily as skilled.
Yeah, I was gonna say like something that completely slipped my mind is active damage down. That is something that I forgot. Active damage down, opponent damage down.
yeah,
So
active damage
Yeah,
down
it's really
that
and
shit is
shielding
nutty.
actually shuts down
That's
some burst.
nutty.
And it also shuts down some like sustain stuff, like for example, like stuff that would be a true combo, like a monk combo would become like a not true combo because you're like damaging them down. And also if you debuff their potion, they're gonna like actually die if you sneeze in their direction, even though they're like so tanky. And like if a monk dies, then basically every other job dies, right? Because like monk is just built different, but
Hell yeah.
I would say my advice for any Scholar players is only queue during Volcano. And here's why. In solo queue, the issue with Scholar is that a lot of the fights are very spread out. People just want to do their own thing or 1v1 off in like Africa.
Oh
While the
yeah,
team
yeah, the
focus.
Narnia 1v1 in the
Yeah.
balcony. Shoutouts to Phantom Rush. Who is Phantom Rush, by the way? I guess we'll never know.
But anyway,
But that guy's crazy.
so Scholar
Absolutely
loses a
correct.
lot of effectiveness if the enemy team and or your team are not grouped up. it's a job that's strongest in a 5v5 scenario, and so Volcano is where it excels because everyone's clustered, and it's really easy to buff everyone on top of debuffing the enemy team. And
Yeah,
overall, I would still say that it's definitely not a C tier job. I would still say it's a B tier for sure, but because of the lack of agency, that it can be quite difficult to feel like you're making a difference as you climb more and more, and as we get paired with worse teammates.
yeah. I would say
I
that.
think a good you wanna go?
Yeah, I was gonna say like the reason why I think that Scholar is like a C tier job has nothing to do with the strength of the job. It just has to do with the positioning of support as a climbing agent. Like some of the best support players, and I really mean like the best. Like SJ is not a bad player. That guy is fucking cracked. But like he has to roll dice. He has to roll dice to like he's playing a different game. He's playing you know, creature lean conflict pretty much.
Yeah, it just gets worse and worse as your rating gets higher
Yeah.
and get matched with worse teammates because
It's
the
like
matchmaking
Pokemon.
system is toxic.
Bad IVs.
Wow, it's not even Pokemon, dude. We're dealing with Digimon sometimes.
Some knockoff brand.
Go ahead, Ellie. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, I think the thing with Scholar, it's a little bit like Bard. A good Scholar and a good Bard can be like insane playmakers, but you need to be the biggest brand name in the planet. Like, you need to be actually cracked to like get value. Like stuff like Expedient can be insane, but you need to like know the exact time when to use it, and that's like super hard, and that's not something that like most people will ever get to, like skill wise. Like you need to be like an Irish She level of like game sense, you know?
There's only one scholar I want on my team, and it's SJ Sharks. Big
Hell
fan.
yeah. Huge fan, actually. Huge fan.
Huge fan. All right, let's talk about White Mage. So White Mage had a little bit of a fall from grace. I feel like it's like barely B tier now. What do you guys think?
Uh, it's kind of a little bit of both a fall from grace and people kind of learning how to play the game. But like in general, I feel like it's just a different game now because before the nerfs and in general people knowing like what to do versus it, it's just White Mage is just dumped. Like massive damage, big stun, flower for big potency, as well as a 3-second. You can't purify, guard, or do anything. You're just running around as a little imp and you just die in it. But now it's just like damage is, yeah, it's like super important. You kill somebody and you win the game off of just say staggering or anything like that. But it's just, it seems a lot harder for a white mage in particular to just, I want to kill this guy, he should die, but he needs to die in the 2 seconds. And really all you really have is laser, poly, and then flower, and then you're just a heal bot for like the rest of the game. But aside from like say comparing it with Scholar, it's the barrier it gives is like it's okay, it can save somebody from a meteor, but it just doesn't feel as impactful even if you're like you're on the winning team more or less to say.
Yeah, I would say like the main issue with White Mage is that like everyone's on polymorph alert. And that's something that the White Mage player has to deal with. You can't just poly off cooldown. You have to poly off of an existing stun.
Yeah. It's
In
like
the early
a...
days,
Oh, go ahead. No,
Oh.
you're good. You got it.
I'll say that in the first few days and weeks as TC, White Mage is quite strong because he could literally just do anything and land a 5-man LB into polymorph and zone or die because they're not used to matching recuperate yet. But I still think that White Mage is still capable. The kit is still strong. Having a 2-second uncleansable CC on such a short cooldown is undeniably strong. It's just it definitely takes quite a bit more effort to know when your team can target that person and when to be able to cast Miracle of Nature while not just like leaving it on cooldown.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
All right, let's.
If I had to put White Mage on a tier list, I'll probably put it between Dark Knight and Gunbreaker. I wouldn't say it's bottom of B.
Is Warrior worse, or is
I think
it?
Warrior is worse, yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Because like, if we're thinking it from a solo queue perspective, it kind of suffers from, say, Red Mage Beam Silence or pretty much like free stacking. Is you have to like one marker every single poly, and every single poly has to be super value, or you're just kind of sitting there. Your kid, like Rin said, your kid's really strong, but without poly, especially it not being on a 3-second, just 2-second, if they don't capitalize on a one marker when you're killing somebody, say frontline or like catching somebody out of guard, then it's kind of like doomed after.
Yeah, but then if they do, then it's quite a big value on the other hand. It's basically guaranteeing kill every time you are able to use it if your team can follow the one marker and if you can polymorph the correct target.
The downfall of most jobs is if your team insert gameplay here.
Yeah, that's why you have to kind of like adjust based on what your team's doing, you know, the likelihood of them attacking your target, things like that. It's feel like White Mage, to be effective, it's quite skill intensive in that you just have to pick your targets correctly, your timings correctly, on top of things like Aqua Veil being heavily reactive.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the best healer in the game. Astrologian. This shit is busted.
Why? Yeah, it's cracked.
Yeah, it's the best nade here.
Just, man, I really did not expect the card system from Heaven's Ward to make such a strong comeback, dude. It was just as busted in Heaven's Ward, dude. Although Spire in Heaven's Ward was not the good card, but still, dude, you pull a Spire, you got a monk.
Spire the monk smile.
Bro, you got a monk on your team and you pull Spire, you just won the game, dude.
Yeah, first team fight's done.
You just won the game, dude. It's a fucking wrap. There have been games where it's like I'm winning, like I got the first blood and I'm winning the engagement, and then I get one shot comboed by the enemy monk, and I'm thinking to myself like, wait, I didn't die. How did I lose LB uptime? And it's like he got double Spire.
Spire is actually just straight up broken, in my opinion. It's
Types GG's.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips? Maybe just gamble harder.
Honestly, I'll definitely put Astrologian top of A tier above Paladin and Monk. It's
I
just
would
such a
put it
big
above
difference.
that.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
Above
No, I would.
Paladin and Monk.
I would too.
Astro's too broken.
It's really good. It's not just the cards, you know.
The
On
gravity
demand.
bomb is insane.
Gravity, macro, it's 30k in demand. If you have
Yeah,
LB,
it's like
then it's
Dragoon
even more.
LP every 30 seconds.
It's not uncommon for to see an Astrologian and like the top 5 damage done, and it's all AoE damage. And then we have the whole issue of how the gravity status effect is delayed, so you can't just like purify instantly, otherwise you'll purify and get binded. And Macrocosmos healing, spot healing, the top has like all of it for like a support. It's really, really
Like,
strong.
Astrologian is the only class that can block Black Mage DPS reliably. Like, if you're a paladin and you try to block Black Mage damage with cover, now you're dead, you know? But if you're a Astrologian, you could aspected benefit your boy from 0 to 100. Like, it's chill. You're good, you know? Super value, super value. There's really not much to say more about Astrologian. The class is just so fucking cracked because
It's insane too.
yeah, it has such strong numerics. Like the numerics are just through the roof. You got dry healing, dry damage, percentage flip. The LB percentage flip, like we do 30% more and you do 30% less. That's cracked, you know, like the percentage flip, the dry damage from gravity, the dry healing, it's just so dry. Like, you know, if we were talking about Scholar, how it does like a lot of hidden value, all the Astro stuff is just like in your face value. You can't possibly fuck it up, you know? Yeah, it's also like super straightforward. Like there's no like the secret, like is there any secret tech? The secret tech is you get Spire. Like,
Yeah, the secret tech is just winning the game, smile. Also, Macrocosmos is just
It's
Why?
broken.
Why is Microcosmos the exact same as PvE? It's broken in PvE, and they just felt like putting it in PvP, or it would be even more broken.
Something hits different when you hit LB as Astrologian, and you do gravity into Macrocosmos, and you do almost as much damage as Dragoon LB, but instantly.
Instantly, and also you're safe. You're a range character. You're like the Bahamut. You just drop Bahamut on them with a stun.
Yeah.
Astrologian LB, suddenly you get like 3 kills. It's not easy.
Let's talk about Dragoon. I actually think Dragoon requires a lot of skill. Like, I don't think Dragoon is free anymore. And this mainly has to do with the state of Black Mage in the game. Like, you, as a Dragoon, you are in danger all the time. Because if you pre-prop Wormwave's thrust, like the backflip, and you don't have backflip for ice, you're probably dead. Like,
Mhm.
and you know, if you're playing Dragoon, you want to do the optimal damage. You want to do pre-pop backflip, Jarskogel, pre-set up Life of the Dragon into Chuck Wormwave, Chuck Jump, Heaven's Thrust, Nastron. Like, you want to do the slick dick combo, but if you try it, you're gonna get bodied. You know, that's
Yeah.
that's the problem. Um,
I
It's
still think
like
Dragoon's quite strong.
it still is like super. I think the main thing that I like on Dragoon, because I've been climbing on Primal with the Dragoon to Crystal, as well as an alt right now that literally just got into Crystal. It seems like it's very hit and run, and you can low-key just start soaking kind of on demand, just Horde Roar, because 50% damage down to everything that you hit is super valuable. You pretty much don't need to guard unless there's actually just 5 people only hitting you with all their abilities, but that generally won't happen.
Even
And
at the start of
no,
the game, sorry,
no, go ahead.
but I was gonna say on the Horde War comment, sometimes on Dragoon, when I would play on an ult, if I see an opportunity to hit the 5-man Horde Roar at the start, like say C9, I'll do it. And I'll hit the Horde Roar, and I'll live through everything. No problem.
It's
It's
so
crazy
good.
good.
And like lining up things is super good too. Like when you have like the perfect lineup, say you already have high jump like rolling, you have like a wheeling thrust, the last wheeling thrust combo into elusive jump, and you're already primed with Garrick Skogel and about an Estron. Just the burst and like a second like you like mark one target somebody and everybody listens, they're gonna die. Like it's just so much instant damage that you can get off, as well as just like prepping it with LB as well, with like weird Dragoon tech, like using Speedway or Elusive Jump to just speed you up and just be like a hidden Dragoon LB, just bang, there goes a team wipe, and then it's just G after that.
what do you think about Dragoon LB with guard? It seems like everyone just guards Dragoon LB. Do you have any solution?
It's like
I'd
how
say-
you'd make it hidden for the most part. It's like player skill determined pretty much. If you just sit in the middle of 5 people and they just see you sky high, like of course they're gonna guard. But if you like use sky high when everybody's focused on say like a Dark Knight or a Warrior, and you just inch around the corner ever so slowly and just drop it on 3 people like instantly, then it's just kind of really hard to react to.
Or if you're ballsy, you just take the Gamba and just counter it without guarding. You just space it out a little bit. That's what I do all the time because I don't like guarding it.
I would say
But
that you can just also play reactively instead of using the Dragoon LB raw, not knowing if an enemy will guard it or not. You can just use it if you know an enemy's guard's already down. Secure the kills for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think Dragoon is super good, but you know, you gotta be big braining it right now. It's a little bit dangerous to play, but you know, you got the tools to make it work for sure. That's why I put it at name brand required. I don't think it's just a free, it's not a free thing like the A tier jobs. I'm gonna talk about Reaper for a second. I actually think that the Reaper value has increased. It's not super good, and maybe I'll have to readjust the scholar position. But I think if you play Reaper, so Reaper has like the gunbreaker thing where like this should be a blue jobstone pretty much. If you
True.
press buttons on the Reaper, like you waste your time. And his whole angle is he's trying to get you to press buttons. And I've never had more fun in my games than when I have like, who is that guy? Farsa? Farsa. This guy, he just like W's in. He just W's in with shield. And like that's perfect. You know? That means I'm not getting all the bullshit. He's getting the bullshit. And it's like, either our team can follow up or our team can't follow up. But I like it. I dig it. I dig the dry W. It kind of reminds me of pre-nerf Warrior, where like, you know what he's gonna do. You know the Reaper is gonna go in, so you might as well go in with him. He's gonna eat all the buttons anyway, and he can live because the backward teleport, is on the same button, so he could teleport in. He takes like 50% of his life. So long as he can purify guard, if he manages to purify guard, he can backflip out or back teleport out, and he lives. Personally, I wouldn't play Reaper that much. I did play it on like 2 characters to climb from 0 to 2K, but I ended up switching at the tail end to go from 2K to 5K just for like stronger carry potential because Reaper does not have super strong carry potential. And maybe it should be here in C because it doesn't have the ability to carry the game by itself. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a grief job. Like I would certainly have changed my opinion about Reaper. I don't think it's a grief job. It's just that I have to understand what his angle is, like what the Reaper player is gonna do, and I have to play a little bit differently. So less backline, more frontline, and I'm gonna be more confident because I know that they're gonna press all the buttons on my Reaper. Do you guys have like any points about what I said, or how you guys feel about it?
I think Reaper is definitely quite a bit higher than C tier.
Where would you put it?
In the first place, I would probably put Dragoon in A tier. I can't see Dragoon being weaker than Summoner. And so, I would probably put Reaper in like the bottom A tier, quite honestly, for solo kill.
Really, bottom of A tier.
Yeah, because, although you do not like do a ton of like damage or AoE damage, being a Swale tank can be quite like very helpful for your team because not everyone knows that the Reaper just wants to waste your time in solo kill. People will just want to hit the target that's closest to them, and Reaper really excels at that. They have non-targeted movement, they have insane sustain, and they have, such short cooldowns on their movement that it's really easy to just live as Reaper and keep being basically a rat, securing health potions, harassing, and when you have your LB, you make a lot of plays with it.
Wouldn't
On
that
the Chaos
maybe
Datacenter, there was a Reaper player that actually held rank 1 for like quite a long time, and I think that they made a great example of how strong Reaper can be if played well.
wouldn't that make it name brand required then instead of top of A?
Barca brand required.
Yeah, like if I see what you mean. Like, so I'm willing to move it up to like if it's like skill level condition. Like, is that what you're saying, Rin? Like, it doesn't deserve to be C tier because the job is like pretty good. But the question here is whether or not can any random person pick it up, or does it require like some kind of familiarity with the job?
You definitely do have to have like a sense of, how far you can push it, how far you can push the envelope before you actually get murdered. And so I think there is definitely quite a skill floor to it. You will see quite a few bad Reapers in the solo queue, especially on Aether.
We're not gonna go there.
No,
No.
I think if you're confident on Reaper, then you can definitely contribute quite a lot to your team. And so yeah, B tier would be a good compromise, I would say. And,
I want to get Nishi's opinion. How do you feel playing against Reaper?
Annoying. Like Reapers can be really annoying. good Reapers. Like they just play like rats, and like you either have to deal with them, or if you just keep ignoring them and they charge their LB, like Reaper does damage, right? When they have LB. So,
Yes,
like,
that's
they have
true.
the potential to still kill you by themselves. So like, yeah, I'd say that they're like ninjas. Like they're annoying, but they're not as dangerous as monks.
I see, I see. Where do you think that not Ninja, Reaper belongs? Where do you think Reaper belongs in this B tier? I don't think it's better than Dancer. I think Dancer is like by and far better than every other B tier job. Just based on what I've seen from Shib's gameplay, and like there's some other noteworthy dancers as well. The question is whether or not you think, is Reaper better than Dark Knight, or is it a better tank than Warrior?
I
It's
think
definitely better
Reaper.
tank than warrior. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would. I'm kind of like questioning if it would be above even White Mage or maybe even equal to White Mage, because like soaking damage in solo queue right now is like prime real estate for like dealing with people on your team
It
who
really
can't
is.
deal with like getting drilled or getting like if you know how much damage you can take with your potency shields and like pushing the limits of what you can do, the damage you soak is insane. And when that damage is not on your team, they have like way more time and way more room to think about how they're going to kill somebody, or they're going to look at a one marker more than they're going to look at their guard button. And it just makes it like a lot easier for your team in general.
Yeah, I would probably put it above white mage, quite honestly, just for like that kind of playstyle.
Okay, that's kind of crazy to me. I mean, that would mean that Reaper is a better tank than Dark Knight. I don't know if I agree with that. Is Reaper a better tank than Dark Knight? Dark Knight is pretty tanky.
Dark Knight's tanky, but it has no real like escape mobility. You can only
Yeah.
plunge to enemies, whereas Reaper, it's 10-second cooldown, and you get movement, and you can like teleport back to your portal. It's really crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. You can just dash in, soak damage, and get out after.
Yeah.
I see, I see.
Part of being tanky isn't just, having mitigation, but also like having the mobility to stay alive, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. Like the ability to live,
Mhm.
as opposed to just soaking damage. Where do we want to put Sage? I would say Sage is like here, somewhere here in this area. Or maybe better than Bard.
It might be. I know it's better than Dragoon for sure. Just like it has. I don't know why it has so much raw damage, but like it's just really good. Like you can't really go wrong as long as you're pressing your buttons and rolling correctly, knowing when to burst and stacking your Cardia Toxicon 2s like on the right targets. Like they're just gonna melt.
I think the main thing about Sage, or like the main thing holding it back, like why I can't really, I feel like it deserves less, is just because Monk is so prevalent in the solo queue era right now that if you're a 49, Sage is 49.5k HP, you die to Monk super easily.
It's 48 actually. It's
48.
same
okay.
HP as Black Mage.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, 48. So it dies to the the weak monk combo. The no prep monk combo, it can die to it. And the fact that like you don't need to prep a true strike or a snap punch for it kind of makes me feel like it's going to get hunted a lot if you're not careful. That being said though, the monk player usually instantly goes for the black mage, so I am not 100% sold on where I want to put Sage in the A tier. What do you guys think?
I'd put it. I'd either put it above Dragoon or above Red Mage, because it seems like a good Sage LB. Say if you hold it, or if you don't get cucked by a monk before using it or during it, the value from just the potency dot that it gives and the fact that other players have to be inside of the circle just creates so much space and room for your team to work around, and limits the space for the enemy team to like, oh damn, I have to like walk into the Sage. Or if a Sage LB goes, and a black mage is on the other team, you can't just like throw freezes into there without losing a shit ton of value. So it's definitely a lot better than just the, I don't want to say like brainless, but the, if you just press Bahamut or if you just press Sky Shatter, like a Sage can react to these things and just like, oh, by the way, you don't exist anymore. Like your LB doesn't matter because I'm in Sage LB.
What do you think, Ellie? Do you think Sage is better or worse than Bard? I know you're like the Bard fan.
Okay, from a solo queue perspective, I think Sage is better because the one thing that's like good in solo queue is just raw damage. Like having your own agency in solo queue will make the diff, right? But like in the LP situation, I still think Bard is better. But since this is like solo queue, I think you can put Sage above.
All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk about Ninja. I think Ninja has actually moved up from name brand required to just generally good, and the reason why is because the Black Mage teammate. Pretty much if you're a Ninja player, probably better than Red Mage in my opinion. If you're a Ninja player, pretty much all you have to do to win games nowadays is you Mesui the Black Mage, you stun the guy who's on your Black Mage, you press Satan on the guy that your Black Mage is hitting. That's all you do. It used to be like so much trickery and slickery and whatever, but like that shit doesn't even matter anymore. The game is just the Black Mage game. So as a Ninja player, I'm not really doing anything fancy anymore. I'm just protecting this guy. He's low on HP, have a Mesui. Warrior is diving you, Monk is diving you, I'ma stun him, you know, like easy. You know, the gameplay mental loop, like the mental thought process decreased by like 10,000% because the win condition is so obvious now. Before it was like, I have to check Polymorph, I have to check Warrior, Unga Bunga, I have to check Paladin, I have to check this, I have to check this. Now it's like, I don't gotta check anything, bro. You're gonna carry me. I'm just gonna make you heal. Like, I'm just gonna give you the heal, bro. Like the gameplay, the skill level just decreased all the way down into the floor. Like anyone can be a good ninja now, and you could tell by my tone that I'm not exactly happy about it. But technically speaking, ninja got buffed because black mages are such good. Black mages are just so good for
Yeah, that sounds
the
about right.
like just for the game's meta that like you don't even bother with like the skill. I'm not skill diffing anyone on ninja anymore, and for me to attempt to skill diff someone is foolish. You know, my angle is I'm just gonna help the black mage win the game. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the whole angle right now. And if
You
there
ever
isn't,
just like, yeah,
yeah,
you ever just
and if
like foul and then blizzard and then just Satan? You're just like, oh shit, I guess I get a free kill because the black mage is pressing buttons.
and if there is no black mage in the game, then the new angle is I just whoever my monk is slamming, I slam with the monk. You know, like I'm just second fiddle, and that's okay. But because there's no like inherent skill diffing anymore on ninja, it's sort of like raise the skill floor all the way up. Like the floor is so high. All you gotta do is mess with your black mage, Lamau, and press Satan and whoever's frozen. The black mage is already doing like 90% of their life anyway. Lastly is samurai. I know you have the secret alt that is climbing in solo queue on samurai. I think that samurai is actually struggling right now because it has no out as a melee job, and the Cheetan nerf. You know, they nerfed Cheetan because it was super strong, and then they buffed black mage, and it kind of feels like you wish you had the old Cheetan back. Like 25% is not enough. But what are your thoughts, Jay?
Um, yeah, it's kind of like a budget reaper in a sense because you're still playing blue samurai job. You're still trying to soak a lot of damage in with Cheetan nerf, and it's kind of hard to like say get like a juicy Ogi without like you're pretty much almost always in solo queue gonna get a multi-hit Ogi unless Like you're chasing somebody down, and that's not really what you're supposed to be doing, because you have a free get out of jail like card just on Midari alone for I think it's like 3 or 4 seconds of just CC immunity, as well
Yeah.
as Chi-10 right after, Guard right after. You still have Purify, you have Ogi Shield, a free bind that you're pretty much pressing on cooldown. And as of right now, I feel like the most potential you get out of Samurai is just, can you just screw a team over by Zen Tetsuken in overtime? I feel like that's the most like skilled like dependent factor. Just like having Zen Tetsuken up makes you super tanky, like as it is. Nobody wants to touch you because they know that if you have Chi-10 up, they're just gonna get one tap.
Do you think that like can you make an argument for maybe why Samurai doesn't deserve C tier, or can you give me a case for why it should increase into B tier?
Well, the damage is good. It's actually, the damage is super good. Say you get a single target Ogi into just a Midari on somebody's face, like it's super good. What's dragging it down? I definitely, I don't know if I would put it in B tier. I think it's good in C tier, just based on cast times. Like your highest damage is cast time, and well, obviously not like taking into account Zantetsuken, but it's just the amount of time your LB takes to charge, and the amount of players who are way used to not hitting into Cheetan now, people just throwing an ignore symbol over your head whenever you have, like, whenever your bar is full. It's just like you can't do much if the team isn't hitting you, and that's not determined by you. It's determined by the enemy team, and that's like negative agency. Like you're pretty much like shooting yourself in the foot by playing Samurai, but it's just really hard to actually get shit done on that job.
The problem is that it has no escape, and the defensive button it has is it's a nerfed button. So, and also not only is it a nerfed button, they also went and buffed another class off into space, you know, off to the moon. So it's kind of rough.
I mean, yeah, it's strong. Like it's good. It's just, I don't know. State of the game just does. I feel like it just doesn't fit into that niche, but it can. I've seen like crazy good Samurai players. Unique Tang, shout out. But I don't think he's played since the range buff, so it's really hard to say.
Do you think that it should move up, or are you comfortable with it being very niche?
I'd say it's niche. I wouldn't be like, oh damn, I have a Samurai on my team. It's time to like actually get plays done. It's just a soak tank, but like it has decent damage. I'm not like Midari 16 and then Ogi, I think it's like 12 single.
Yeah, it's like 24 if you get both.
Yeah, it's just I doubt you'll ever be able to get that consistently to really like make it so that like, oh, Ogi is super good when it just does an AK splash. Shield is super good on an Ogi, but you're staying alive more than you're really having the agency to push kills down.
All right, so Aurelia, I know you also played Samurai quite a bit. Did you want to chime in on this?
I think that with what people are playing nowadays, it really makes it hard to get the success you used to as Samurai. So I would think that maybe in B. I don't think that it's like horrible. It's just that it requires more work now that you're dealing with getting frozen often, and then also potentially just getting grabbed by the monk so that you can't even build your LV, right?
Yeah.
The one thing that you had going for you, people are not going to let you get it off as easily as they used to. So
Yes, I understand the melee struggle, bro. It's rough. It's rough for the melee players. So we're gonna do like a final pass. Since we did these jobs like sort of independently of each other, is there any kind of like ordering issue that you feel like is unfair, or like it doesn't belong here? What do you think about summonership?
Bro, I accidentally muted myself. I don't think it's in. I don't think it should be A tier. I think it should be at least B tier. I think it's fine and it's really easy to play, but I don't think like it's not too great for solo queue or even like LP because at least like finding success on it because I was playing it for a while and it felt really like I have no agency with like getting my kills on my own except like comboing my teammates and you can just you also have no mobility if like people actively go after you. So like if a monk just like chases you down, like a melee chases you down, you just can't do anything at all.
I think kind of like based on the way we did this, I feel like B should be changed from name brand required to more like team help required.
Yeah,
Like,
that's good.
it does seem
I'd
to
agree with
fit
Yeah, I
that.
agree with that.
Yeah, the B tier seems to be more indicative of your single player diff. Like you have less player diff capacity on A or compared to B. So if you're gonna replace Summoner, I would put Summoner probably better than Gunbreaker.
I'd put it better than Gunbreaker, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Would you think it's better than Dancer or no?
I don't think so.
No.
It's way too team reliant. It's basically probably the most supportive job in the game, besides Scholar.
And then for Scholar, are we comfortable with the very niche placement here, or do you think it could move up anywhere, or what do you guys think?
If we're looking at it from just solo queue perspective, because you can't just wish into existence an AST on your team or a tank on your front line. It's just you have to be ready to be like able to
You have to
deal
be
with
ready for the one,
yeah,
the 4 DPS comp.
the insanely difficult like hill you have to climb, and it just doesn't make it like even Warrior doesn't need like they do and they don't, but not to the capacity of what Scholar needs on their team to be able to like make their damage and their consistency like viable in a sense.
Is there I just want to ask for anyone else who hasn't spoken yet, Nishi, Ellie, are you guys like fair on this ordering, this tier list? Is there anything here that's like grossly out of order that you would change in the final recap?
I think it's fine.
I think it's alright.
All right.
Like, yeah.
hmm?
I don't think I would move anything particularly.
All right, sounds good. So that's the whole tier list. Thanks for coming on, guys. It's been a pleasure doing this with you. And thank you, the viewer, for watching this super long video. You're a fucking monster if you watch this whole thing. God damn.
This is the content Rami produces.
This
for
is
people like
it, bro. And we're logging off. Oh.